Scholars agree that it's very unlikely that Jesus ever went to Qumran. So what I want to know is whether he could have been influenced by Essene teachings.
They were absolutely right, he never went there. They were absolutely wrong, he didn't have to go there. We know from both Philo and Josephus, these great scholars at the beginning and the end of the first century, they say that there are 4,000 Essenes all over the land, and they're exactly where Jesus is teaching, outside the villages, outside the cities. So we have to presuppose probably Jesus could be influenced by them.
Jesus certainly did not belong to the Essenes. He couldn't have belonged to the Essenes. He wouldn't have accepted most of their teachings, but he was influenced by some of their teachings. The Essenes were very much in favor of poverty. They believed that riches corrupt.
And that was unique.
This is an absolutely new idea, new and very difficult to follow. The rich corrupts, and if riches corrupts, you would rather be poor. This is exactly what Jesus preaches, that poverty is a value.
And this isn't the only evidence Magen believes of Jesus being influenced by the Essenes. Divorce was allowed in Jewish law, but Jesus spoke out against it.
The most important point about that is that he was using the same arguments as the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls used. I mean, the Lord has made them man and wife, so they cannot be separated.
One of the treasures from Cave 4 is a fragment of poetry. Its repeated use of the word blessed is very similar to the Beatitudes from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, recorded in Matthew's Gospel. And yet the Qumran fragment predates Jesus by at least 50 years. For Jim Charlesworth, this is evidence that Jesus was using a traditional poetical form that his audience would have been familiar with.
He has to speak the language of the people, and he's influenced by what the people are influenced by. Certainly, the more we realize and the more we study about Judaism and that world, what we as children thought was unique. For example, only Jesus knew about Beatitudes, only Christians knew about the Messiah, only Christians knew about the Kingdom of God. None of these are Christian creations. They're coming from Judaism.
In the 1950s, when scholars were first translating the scrolls, John Allegro and others questioned Jesus' uniqueness. They saw the torture and death of the teacher of righteousness as a precursor to Jesus' death and execution. This caused a storm amongst Christians. The argument has now died away with fresh translations of the scrolls challenging this version of the teacher of righteousness story. But it's a sign of how times have changed. Christians like Jim Charlesworth are now comfortable with the idea that Jesus was influenced by others in what he taught. And for Magen, the scrolls teach both their faiths a valuable lesson.
I should say that it's very important for people willing to learn that both Christianity and Judaism have common grounds, even for our daily life at our present time.
Over the past 60 years, the scrolls have proved to be an amazing window into life and beliefs in the first century, dramatically improving our knowledge of the period. But what of the texts that we can't read because of the effects of damp, old age, and human error? Could they have more to tell us? For the moment, I must leave the Middle East. I've had an invitation to a laboratory on the other side of the world that's been described as a CSI for inscriptions. This is the University of Southern California, and its campus is a quiet oasis in downtown Los Angeles. And it's here that for over 20 years they've been working on the puzzle of the scrolls, revealing lost texts and piecing together long separated fragments. Since the 1950s, infrared photography has been used on the scrolls. but Professor Bruce Zuckerman has developed more precise infrared techniques to help scholars in their restoration work.
Now it's probably better to show you.
Sure, no,
this is one of these things that's easier to show than it is to.
That would be great.
So this is a fragment of a Dead Sea Scroll,
right.
and you know, it's just not a pretty picture.
It looks like burnt bits of toast, to be honest.
Yeah. Now watch this. Presto changeo. I pull up a matching infrared image of this,
right.
and look.
My goodness.
The text just jumps out at you.
Yeah.
In fact, let's zero in on that, because one of the reasons I showed you this is that this is no ordinary text. The beginning of this text is Bereshit bara Elohim. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This is the beginning.
The first line
right.
of Genesis.
Well, you know.
That's amazing.
It's true. I can pick this up in a local Bible,
yeah.
but it's always nice to see that they were still reading it that way in the first century. So I'll show you, for example, another reconstruction that we did. Here is a plate that we were asked to study, and none of us, absolutely none of us, thought there was anything on this fragment. And we said, well, we should check. Besides, we have this new infrared technique. Let's see if it works. So when we did, we were able to suddenly see that there was real writing on it. I mean, we had dismissed this piece. You know, we used to call it the Dead Sea Schmutz, you know, which means the Dead Sea
good Yiddish
crap.
word.
Good Yiddish word, right? And then we discovered it wasn't so schmutty. It was a real deal. Now, the scribe who wrote this thing had a rather eccentric hand. And you notice, well, those letters are rather different. So it didn't take us long, actually it didn't take us very long at all, to notice that there was another ancient document, here it is, I'll pull it up here,
right.
that in fact had those same handwriting characteristics. So we took the one piece that we just had and we dropped it into the picture like that.
Oh, I see.
And now the question is where to make it fit. So you play jigsaw puzzle games, you know. This is, what do? You say, well, does it fit here? No, it doesn't fit there. Does it fit up here? No. But now watch this. It fits right there.
I see. You can see how that letter...
Yeah. The little word across here is the word Malkah, Aramaic, means king.
Right.
And this is from the book of Daniel. I love to do this. This is
you
fun.
clearly do.
Well, you know, it's like...
It's exciting,
It's puzzle games, but puzzle games with ancient texts. But every clue is important. And sometimes, I know it sounds crazy, but sometimes big issues of history turn on the proper interpretation of a single letter. And sometimes you can decide that point. You can say, that's the letter.
I received a call from Ira Rabin of the Israeli Antiquities Authority, who's in Berlin about to start work on the ink analysis of her two puzzling fragments. Hopefully, another riddle of the scrolls is about to be solved. Ira and her colleague Oliver Hahn start by introducing me to Bessie, the nickname for the electron accelerator that'll carry out the tests.
This is the electron storage ring. Yes.
Bessie produces highly accurate X-rays that will allow detailed analysis of the composition of the ink. Science that's usually deployed in industrial research is being used to solve a scroll's riddle.
It's a very powerful radiation, and all these people here can use this for completely different measurements.
Right.
But you need a very brilliant source,
right.
And you need there's a special kind of X-ray source for the measurements.
The fragments they'll be testing are those Ira showed me in Jerusalem. They were joined in 1959, but it's disputed whether they should have been placed together at all. The techniques she's using may also show whether the scrolls were written at Qumran or elsewhere. Yet the archaeological evidence that Jody Magnus showed me suggested the scrolls were made by the Dead Sea.
There is evidence that some scrolls were produced in this place. We are not trying to say that nothing was produced there, but the library is very big. It's huge. It's about 900 manuscripts. The question is whether all of these manuscripts were produced in this place.
Nice, okay. Let's go. You get a ground level view of this amazing place. What do they say?
Well, actually I have a translation here.
This one here.
Yeah, you can just
2.1.
stir it.
I will teach you knowledge and wisdom and understand the ways of man and the works of the sons of man. Quite apt for what you're doing, isn't it?
Oliver will scan each fragment separately. Bessie and her X-ray can detect particles of dust blown into the ink as the scribe worked, as well as trace elements in the water used to make the ink. Both give clues to the location where the scroll was written. Within a few minutes, the scroll gives up its secrets.